Hello and welcome to the first Blokzplus video devlog. My name is Chris. I am the creator of the Blokzplus engine. I've been working on it off and on for a good while now. Basically it came about when I was just putting together a small demo using the Block engine, which was created by a guy named Lawrence. And I ran into a lot of limitations and decided that I would try my best to add everything that I thought was missing. So before I begin, let's go ahead and take a look at where I started with the Block engine. Alright, many of you probably recognize what you're looking at right now. This is Block engine, which was created for either GameMaker 7 or 8 by a guy by the name of Lawrence. This was basically the first engine that I saw that would allow you to basically edit a voxel world in real time pretty responsively. There's not really a lot of frame rate drops when you're adding or removing large chunks of terrain. There is a little bit, but it's serviceable. There are a lot of limitations though. The size of the world is really small. Like here's one edge and I can walk to the other edge in like no time at all. But it does a good few things right. It's got a really nice frustum culling script in here, which means only parts of the world that are directly within your view are going to be drawn. I just took out a big chunk of the house. But it's also got a cool shadow casting system, so if I were to add blocks, you notice that the terrain underneath actually does get a little bit darker. If I go up a little bit higher, remove this bottom block, you can see there is still some kind of soft shading, but not really. It's very flat. But it works. I felt that this was pretty good for the time. It allowed people to experiment and create voxel, Minecraft, whatever style games in GameMaker, but it didn't have a lot of the things that I felt were important to having the true, gaming in this awesome editable world experience that, that I think a lot of people were looking for, and this really is missing out on. And all of that led to the creation of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just start walking around and I'll show you basically what has changed since I started working. Alright, one thing you're going to notice, there is a lot of stuttering at the moment, but that's from the dynamic chunk generation that I'm using right now. It's not procedural whatsoever. Basically, it just starts from one end of the world and goes to the next, constantly filling in chunks in the background, whether or not the game actually needs them. This is super temporary. I just threw it together just so I could see how quickly my chunks can start filling in the world. Here in the next week or so, I'll make it so that chunks will only generate within view of the player when he starts up the game, or she, whoever happens to be playing. One thing that you'll notice is the chunks are seamless. In the current demo that I have out right now, there are a lot of weird lighting and shadow issues. You'll see gaps in places where there should be, blocks. You see right through to the ground underneath. That has been fixed, and everything is loading together smoothly. You see all the chunks match up nicely, and when a new chunk is generated, faces and shadows are added to the surrounding chunks just to make everything blend together much smoother. I am using Perlin noise and ridged multifractals to generate an interesting terrain. I figure the procedural generation routine really helps a lot when creating massive landscapes. A lot better than reading from a height map, which I believe is what was happening beforehand. This way here you could literally have a terrain that is infinite in size and basically just goes on and on forever without having to run into the same terrain features, because height maps only go so far. They'll end up tiling and you're just going to start back over at the beginning. So everything is generated procedurally. You'll notice I have a smooth ambient occlusion. It's actually baked into each vertex, so when a new chunk is added or removed, it will darken the edges where it meets any other block. I'll go ahead and show you an example. See how there's a cool, soft blending effect, except for that right there, but that's a glitch I plan on fixing. Basically, it's a non-issue at the moment. I just haven't taken the time to go in and take that out. You see there's that same seam. I'll go ahead and clear that up. I've got a just a really basic block removing system in place. Oh, terrain is done generating. Everything's smooth now. So yeah, you click and hold down and it shows the block being destroyed. It's just super temporary right now. Still very glitchy. Like, I can go and it's not going to reset when I change from one block to another. It just keeps going. But you know, it works. It's better than just instantly clicking and watching a block you didn't mean to remove just fade into non-existence. Let me go ahead and show off the shadow system that I have created. It's pretty similar to what was being used before, but it's much smoother. Just build a little tree. Just a random junky tree. I don't really care what it looks like as long as it can cast some shadows. And not even really going to bother with the bottom too much. But you'll notice now there is a soft blended shadow underneath this tree. And what's cool about it is the shadows affect literally every block that you put in. So if I go like this, you can see it's bright there, and then as it goes underneath the tree, it gets darkened by the leaves of the tree. It took me a little while to get that working, but it looks really nice. Another thing that I did differently is, rather than highlighting an entire block when you aim, it just highlights a face. So if I were to try and place something just up on the edge right there, I wouldn't be able to tell if it was highlighting the whole block whether or not I was going to put it at the bottom or at the side. But now I've got just the face highlighted where I'm going to be placing my blocks, which can make adding steps while I'm climbing up or down a surface a lot easier. I'm just using a temporary system right now, though. I am just drawing a cube and displacing it, like you can see when I aim at the cursor there, or the center there, that it is just a whole cube that I'm drawing, but I'll be fixing that to just drawing a flat plane a little bit later. Let's go ahead and cycle through all the different block types that I have in here. The first type of block is just a random cuboid. Just your typical block type. I have, let's pick a different one. Where'd show me something interesting. There are transparent block types that you can see through that won't occlude any faces that are next to them. So, like if I put that right there, I can still see the dirt through it. Whereas if it weren't a transparent block, that face would get removed, which saves on some rendering. Let me see what else we have. Okay, this is something cool that I've got. I added a system to where you can tag blocks with special types of data. So this block right here, just a regular block, but if I go to this one, that has a glow color tag. So it literally lights up the ground around it. Like if I were to put this right next to it, well, it's kind of hard to tell with these colors, but see the right side here has a lighter orangey tone to it, whereas the left side over here is just, you know, your flat gray. That's a lot easier to see with the lava block because the color is a lot more intense, but it's really cool because it literally smoothly lights up all of the vertexes that are directly touching your block, which is really nice looking and definitely helps break up some of the flat tones that you can get with a lot of these different blocks. But it's really cool. Let's go on to the foliage type blocks, if I can find one. Okay, here's one. Foliage is cool because I have wind animation. So you can see it sways with the breeze and even flutters a little bit. And this works with currently all types of foliage. I do plan to add a special tag that you can use to assign how stiff your foliage is. So something like a bamboo might not sway hardly at all, where this wheat is basically just rocking back and forth. I think the plants just look really cool. And just add a couple more just for the hell of it. And all of this is done within a Vertex Shader 2, which reduces the amount of CPU processing to a minimal amount. If I were to do this with anything other than a Vertex Shader, I would have to rebuild the models in every step, and that would just kill my frame rate. Right now my frame rate's, well, it's not great, but I'm also working on a laptop and I have no polygon optimization whatsoever, so like I'm drawing everything even on the other side of this mountain that I can't see. It's still being drawn. I'll end up fixing that in the future. Okay, let's check out. This is something I call a table block. Basically just means that any of the dimensions of the block can be manipulated. So like this cactus here, it is exactly 1 pixel shrunken width and depth wise, which makes it narrower than a standard block. And I have a couple more examples. These are actual tables as well. This one is as wide as a regular block, but the height is squashed down by 4 pixels, so it's shorter than your standard. This one's pretty cool. It's actually got legs, and I can see underneath through to the other side. And the height, like I mentioned, it's configurable, so not all of them have to be, you know, the same height difference. But I think that's a pretty cool feature. It took me a little while to get it working, but it does, and it really adds to the variety of things that you can place in the world. Let's see what else we got. Basically just your standard blocks. The top is a separate texture, the sides are all the same texture, and the bottom is a different texture from the top. But that is also configurable per block. I have a texture lookup system in place that basically allows you to either set all sides to the same texture, like with the lava here, or with these redstone lamps, I think is what they are. Or you can have something like this, where the top is a separate texture from the sides, and the bottom is separate from the top, like that. Bottom's a different texture. Another thing I've added is a front face tag, so that you can assign a front facing texture to any block. So if I were to go to wherever the hell, oh, there it is. If I were to select this crafting table and place it, the front facing texture, which is always aiming towards the player as much as possible, is going to be different from all of the other sides. This is also the case with pumpkins. Here's a jack-o'-lantern with a front-facing texture, and all the sides are different. If I were to place it over here, the front would be facing towards me as much as it can, and all the other sides would be standard. Without the front-facing texture, a pumpkin would basically just look like this. All the sides are the same, and it's really boring. I've also added a glow tag to this lit jack-o'-lantern, so it lights up the vertexes around it, creates a nice soft, a warm, glowing effect, which is really nice. I think it looks really good. And beds, I added those. They're kind of interesting. Can't place them if you don't have room, because they take up two different blocks, but if I were to remove this block, point it right there, we have a 3D model of a bed. Beds also do their best to face towards the player, so if I put it right here, it will face towards me that way, or if I were to put it over here, you know, it faces me there. And, well, there's a glitch right there. Beds can't be removed at the moment either. If you try to, they'll just keep doing that, but I'll fix it in time. But you can also configure the height of the bed, so this top part could be up higher or lower if you want a bed that looks like it's, you know, up off the ground a little bit more. And you can stack two of them together to make like a queen size. Let's see. Oh, another cool thing I have are half blocks, and these are stackable, so I could create like a staircase with half blocks. Cool thing is, if you have two different blocks that are stacked on top of each other and you try to remove one, it'll only take the top one, so the bottom one will stay there. And you can also stack two different kinds of half blocks on top of each other, so that top one is a different one than the bottom, and you do vice versa. You switch it up. Cool checkerboard with the half blocks. I think, no, my recording is still going okay. Just need to double check. Got a frame rate boost like crazy for no reason. Oh, let's go ahead and just put a cake on top of this table for, well, not on top of that. Let's put it right here. And there's a cake. For no reason, I just made it because I wanted to test out my table blocks. You'll notice the cake is 1 pixel smaller in width, and I think it's like 7 pixels shorter than a standard block. But it's pretty cool. Here we go. This is a special block type that I call a cling block, which is essentially a flat plane that you can use to stick to the side of another block, right now I'm just using a ladder as an example because it works, it makes sense. Oh, don't need two of them. That's another glitch I'll have to fix. Oh, what the hell? There we go. There are some issues with block placement that I need to correct. But cool thing about cling blocks is they can get lit by whatever's next to them. So you'll notice this one here is tinted orange on the left. This one here is kind of glitching, but I'll fix that. But they're pretty cool. It took me a little while to get those working, mostly because of the vector issue that I was trying to solve, like trying to figure out which side of the block I'm putting it on. Excuse me. And where to draw the plane based on what vector I'm placing the cling blocks with. You'll also notice right now that if you aim at a block that's got a cling block in it, it'll select the entire cube. In the future I'll make it so that it only highlights just the plane on the wall and won't give you this whole cube thing that kind of gets in the way. Another thing that I want to show off is my cave generation system that I've got in place. Let me see if I can dig straight down and find one. Probably not, but we'll see. I'm using a just a standard 3D Perlin noise script right now to generate cave systems underneath the terrain. I was looking into other things, like maybe using, oh, here we go, multi-ridged, or excuse me, ridged multifractals to create interweaving tunnels and things like that, but this works pretty well for now. One thing you'll notice is I don't have bedrock, I have lava, so if you dig all the way down to the bottom, you'll just run into lava, and eventually it'll do damage to you whenever I get the damaging block tag added. But yeah, these cave systems are all generated completely randomly, and they're done seamlessly between chunks. Like you'll notice there are no gaps anywhere. The artificial vertex baked ambient occlusion that I'm using works seamlessly between chunks. There are some issues I need to correct. Like you'll notice there's some glitches right there, but I'll get around to fixing that. I'll show you exactly how intricate this stuff is. Look at all of these caves that are just generated using 3D Perlin noise script. There's a lot of stuff going on underneath the ground here. But that is the current iteration of the Blokzplus engine. There's a lot of stuff that I've got planned. I'm going to be adding more block types. I'm going to be improving the performance like nobody's business. Right now there is really no lag or whatsoever when I'm placing blocks. Let me find a good one. Excuse me. Alright, so yeah, I can go like that and my frame rate's not going to stutter whatsoever. I can also go up and up. Oh, there's the top. But yeah, the block placement and block removal is super smooth, although I do plan to even improve that. Chunk generation speed, right now it's averaging 1.5 seconds per chunk, and that will be improved as well. The frame rate is going to be improved once I get some sort of obstruction culling or whatever, so that if I go this close to this block, it's not going to render anything that's behind it. It'll skip all of those chunks that are being obstructed, and should improve the frame rate considerably. So a lot of collision issues that I'm going to be fixing. Oh, there's a hole in the ground over here. I'll be improving the lighting some more. I'll be adding some actual point lights that will light up more than just the adjacent blocks. So you could add a torch or something like that, and it will fill an entire room with light. Right now that's not possible, but that will be solved in a coming update. Also, fog is temporary. Right now I'm just using a really simple algorithm inside the pixel shader for the terrain. I'll be replacing that with something that resembles atmospheric scattering, which I will also be using for the sky. So I'll have really nice looking bright colors during sunset, sunrise, moonrise, everything like that. It's going to look really nice. Basically, I'm just going to be making it as pretty as possible and getting the frame rate and generation times as high as I can possibly get them. Right now they're not bad. Definitely a lot better than what I was getting before introducing chunk generation. A terrain like this would probably take maybe 5 minutes to generate, and right now you can get into the game in just a couple of seconds and walk around while the terrain around you decides to build itself. But like I said, everything's still pretty much in alpha. Everything is still very much subject to change, but I think so far it's looking really nice. If you guys want, you can download the benchmark pre-alpha test demo. I'll put the link in the description below. Play around with it. Just keep in mind there's going to be some bugs, some things that you're going to have to try and do in order to avoid the game crashing on you. So definitely take a look at the README file. If you don't and it crashes, well, that's your fault for not reading the README. It's a little bit lengthy, but you can skip down to the bottom just for information on how to avoid crashes. Everything else is just featured details. Anyways, thanks for watching my first devlog. I'll be posting these up as frequently as possible, and hopefully be showing off some new cool stuff. Next thing I plan to work on is probably going to be the sky, maybe a couple more block types, but I'll save that for another video. Anyways, this is Chris saying thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you want to catch all new updates, and I will see you guys later.